Hello everyone, welcome to Bajirao IAS Academy's Smarter Insights into Mains Answer Writing program. We have been discussing ethics question paper of 2025 UPSC mains examination, and today we have some very important questions from 2025 question paper of ethics, integrity and aptitude, and one by one we'll be discussing these questions and its answers along with the structuring and presentation of the answers, so that you will get important and relevant insights into the answer writing of mains examination. So the first question with which we're going to start the session is about social re-engineering and how it will help a civil servant in successful implementation of the welfare schemes. Now if you look at the question says, for any kind of social re-engineering by successfully implementing welfare schemes, a civil servant must use reason and critical thinking in an ethical framework. Now you need to justify the statement with suitable examples. And also understand, whenever you start writing any answer, first of all you need to understand the key theme of the question, the key demand of the question, because the most of the answer revolves around the key demand of the question. Now in the introduction of this answer, you need to briefly mention that civil servants, they drive social re-engineering through welfare schemes. And in fact, the welfare schemes aimed at inclusive growth, inclusive development, where no one left behind. Everyone will be part of inclusive growth and development story. So if I say social re-engineering, so it primarily involves people who are at the bottom of the development. So they will be brought, they will be uplifted, and measures for their advancement will be taken by the government. So this is the social re-engineering, and civil servants play a very important role in social re-engineering. Now in the body part of the answer, you need to address the key demand of the question, and you should also mention relevant examples as well. And in fact, reason and critical thinking for the civil servants is very important, because these are the important values for any civil servant, because they could ensure efficiency in delivering the duties, transparency and even the need-based implementation, while upholding the ethical values by the civil servant. So when I say ethical values, a civil servant must be honest, and he should show the value of integrity, justice, empathy, compassion towards the people, particularly the marginalized sections of the society. And you could mention examples like Manrega and transparency in delivery of public distribution system as well. And in the conclusion of this answer, you just emphasize on rational ethical governance and how rational ethical governance ensures sustainable social transformation in a society like ours, and it will help build an egalitarian society as well. So this is how the framework of the answer should look like. So again, in the introduction, so what you should actually write. So in fact, we all knew the importance or the contribution of civil servants, because we all knew that civil servants play a crucial role and a very important role when it comes to designing various welfare programs and also implementing them as well. However, the aim and objective of these welfare programs is achieve inclusive and a transformative development. And in fact, this is also known as social re-engineering, because in a society like ours, where there are inequalities existing, social hierarchies existing, now social re-engineering will help achieve inclusive development, sustainable development. India's growth story is a sustainable and a transformative growth story in a true sense. And civil servants could actually play a very important role in achieving such inclusive and sustainable development. However, to ensure that these welfare schemes achieve their intended objectives, their aims, the civil servants must employ reason. They should have reason and critical thinking, and it is very important along with the ethical framework also. This ethical framework should encompass justice, empathy, compassion, sympathetic attitude, integrity, honesty. So in fact, the combination of reason, critical thinking along with the ethical values, ethical framework, it ensures that whatever decisions are being taken by the civil servants, they're both effective and morally sound, leading to sustainable social re-engineering. Now in the body part of the answer, what we should exactly write? Now in the body part of the answer, you just mention how rational decision making is more effective in policy implementation. We have just understood that civil servants play a very important role in designing and implementation of various welfare schemes. And these welfare schemes will help in social re-engineering. And in fact, the rational decision making taken by the civil servants will also help in effective policy implementation. For example, civil servants, when delivering their duties, they must use data-driven and evidence-based reasoning so that they could identify genuine needs, genuine beneficiaries, and they could also design policies accordingly for the upliftment of the marginalized and weaker sections of the society. So one such example is Swachh Bharat Mission. During the implementation of this Swachh Bharat Mission, officers who have analyzed the local sanitation behavior and they have used community-based reasoning to achieve better results than those followed a top-down approach. And in fact, top-down approach, it never takes into consideration the local needs. However, so the planning should be bottom up and implementation of these programs should also be bottom up, because bottom up planning, bottom up implementation of the welfare schemes would result in better implementation and achieving better results also. And next, critical thinking and how it will help to overcome the administrative challenges, because civil servants in day-to-day service, they come up with a number of administrative challenges, and in fact critical thinking plays a very important role in overcoming the administrative challenges faced by the civil servants, because the welfare programs, they often face ground level hurdles. So if we talk about the ground level hurdles, they are including corruption, leakages and public resistance. Now one best example for public resistance is COVID-19 and the vaccination or vaccine hesitancy on the part of the people. And in fact, if we talk about the leakages, public distribution system and leakages in the public distribution system and corruption in schemes like Manrega. So therefore, civil servants face a number of ground level hurdles. Now in this context, if officers have the critical thinking, so they could actually adapt policies to the local realities, and that will result in the better implementation of the existing problems or existing challenges. Now we'll take Manrega as an example. Now in fact, there are some officers who critically assessed the local employment patterns, and they have started using the GPS technology also for geotagging the assets. And in fact, the linking technology with the Manrega programs helped reduce ghost beneficiaries, improve accountability, reduce corruption and other leakages as well. So this is one successful story where technology is linked to the Manrega. Now officers who have the value of critical thinking, they will easily overcome the administrative challenges as well. This is an example. And then we need to talk about ethical framework for fair and inclusive governance. Now in fact, along with the critical thinking and rational thinking, the civil servants should also possess the values of ethical framework, because it results in fair and inclusive governance as well, because there are some ethical values which are very important along with the rational thinking and critical thinking on the part of civil servants. So therefore, ethical reasoning or having an ethical framework, it ensures that the welfare measures are implemented with integrity, impartiality and respect for citizens' dignity. Now integrity on the part of civil servants is very important for the better implementation of the policies, identify the genuine beneficiaries, prevent, arrest corruption and leakages in various welfare programs. Now, impartiality is also very important towards, there should not be any partiality towards a religion, towards a community, towards a caste, and even the political party as well. It is expected that civil servants should be neutral and impartial, and they should also respect citizens' dignity as well. For example, an ethical civil servant who is handling the public distribution system reforms, they ensure that fair beneficiary selection and transparency, and in fact they also ensure that there is no favoritism or data manipulation when it comes to the implementation of the public distribution system. And also remember, when you write answers, you should mention such impactful examples in each of these points. So that's how you could write an impactful answer, and that's how you could score very good marks in these answers. And apart from that, a civil servant must be able to balance the competing interests through his or her moral reasoning as well. So this moral reasoning is also very important. For example, the welfare schemes may involve trade-off between efficiency and equity. So there is a very often a conflict between the efficiency and equity when it comes to implementation of the welfare programs. So in fact, the ethical reasoning helps balance these dimensions, right? So it will help balance the dimensions. Now, example is that a land acquisition for infrastructure. Now, if we talk about the land acquisition for the infrastructure, a reasoned and ethical approach, such as ensuring fair compensation and rehabilitation, it helps build trust and social acceptance among the people about this. So therefore, you have to mention such examples as well in the answer. And finally, in the conclusion, you need to emphasize on the civil servants should have the values of rational thinking, critical thinking, and they should also have an ethical framework as well. They should have a combination of all these important qualities or values. So that will help in successful social re-engineering, successful implementation of the welfare programs, and that will finally achieve the inclusive development, sustainable development. And in fact, it will also help build an egalitarian society as well. Right? So the blend of ethical values, critical thinking, rational thinking, it enhances the administrative efficiency. It also upholds the constitutional values, constitutional morality, better implementation of the welfare programs, and it will also truly empower the citizens and completely transform the society as well. So make sure that the conclusion is positive and optimistic in nature, so that it will help you to score a very good marks in the answer. And next very important question. This question is about Mahavir. So he is a Jain Tirthankara. Now, what are the major teachings of Vardhaman Mahavir? Explain their relevance in the contemporary world. Now this question has two parts. It is very simple. You need to emphasize on major teachings of Mahavir and then explain the relevance of those teachings of Mahavir in the contemporary world with the examples. I hope you have understood this, and in the introduction you should briefly introduce about Vardhaman Mahavir because he is the 24th Jain Tirthankar. And in fact, Vardhaman Mahavir emphasized on moral discipline and spiritual purity for the liberation of the soul of individual. And in a similar way, the question has two parts. In the body part of the answer, you need to address these two parts, and in the conclusion, you just emphasize on the important teachings of Mahavir and how they will help build a harmonious society. Right? So Mahavir's principles, they ensure moral harmony, sustainable living in a modern society, and they're very important and relevant for a society like ours. So this is how you need to have a model framework for this answer. Now what you should write in the introduction? Now we all knew first you need to mention that Vardhaman Mahavir is 24th Tirthankar of Jainism. And he's not just 24th Tirthankar of Jainism, but he was a spiritual reformer who emphasized on values like ethical living, self-discipline, non-violence, and they are the paths to achieve a liberation. And in fact, the teachings of Vardhaman Mahavir, so they are not purely religious in nature, but the teachings also focused or they also revolve around a universal moral framework. For example, ethical living of an individual, self-discipline, non-violence. So they form part of the universal moral framework of Vardhaman Mahavir. And in fact, the universal moral framework, it aimed at achieving social harmony, peaceful living, environmental preservation, conservation, and inner peace for the individual, so that we could build a harmonious and a sustainable society in a country like India. So therefore, the principles, whatever principles that Vardhaman Mahavir emphasized on, they have enduring relevance in today's complex and conflict-ridden world. And there is no doubt that we are now living in a complex and a conflict-ridden world. So there are conflicts within the country and outside the country as well. And today we are living in a much more complex world. So therefore, let's understand how Vardhaman Mahavir and his teachings have relevance for the today's contemporary world. Now first, in the body part of the answer, so just emphasize on non-violence or ahimsa. Now first of all, Mahatma Gandhi talked about non-violence. Now Mahatma Gandhi inspired from Buddhism and Jainism, because Vardhaman Mahavir and Gautam Buddha emphasized on the value of non-violence. So therefore, he advocated complete non-violence in thought, word, and even action towards all living beings. So whatever you are thinking, whatever you're speaking and doing, there should be a complete non-violence. This is what Vardhaman Mahavira has emphasized on. For example, in a world which has been facing numerous number of wars, the Russia-Ukraine war, Gaza-Hamas conflict, terrorism, animal cruelty. So ahimsa or non-violence, it promotes peace, harmonious coexistence among the people, building sustainable societies, peaceful societies, right? So therefore, the value of non-violence is very, very important. And in fact, leaders like Mahatma Gandhi, they successfully applied non-violence. And in fact, Mahatma Gandhi's success in India's freedom struggle can be assumed to the value of non-violence. So therefore, Vardhaman Mahavira emphasized on the value of non-violence. The concept of non-violence, it is very important to build a more sustainable society, more harmonious society, avoid conflicts, for example, Russia-Ukraine war and all these wars. And then he also talked about truthfulness, or it is also called as Satya. And in fact, as a human beings, in our thoughts, in our words, in our deeds, we need to speak truth. We need to live truthfully. And living truthfully is considered as an essential value for the moral integrity and trust in society. So trust in society is very important to build a compassionate and harmonious society. The trust among the individuals, the trust between the citizens and the government is very important. So therefore, living truthfully is considered essential and important for moral integrity for the citizens. Now, we all knew that 21st century is known as a century of internet, social media. And in fact, misinformation is also spread at a faster pace in this era. So we are living in an era of misinformation, fake information, hate speech, fake news. Now, amidst of all this, adherence to the truth or truthful living is vital for a transparent governance. And ethical journalism is the responsibility of the media houses. And as a citizens, we should be very responsible. We should have certain duties to perform. So therefore, a responsible citizenship, ethical journalism, transparent governance can be achieved by speaking Satya while thinking, speaking, or even our actions. So they should reflect the value of truthfulness. And then Vardhaman Mahavir also emphasized on non-stealing or asteya. And in fact, he held that one must not take anything that is not willingly given. If somebody has not willingly given a thing to you, so it should not be taken. Example, This principle discourages corruption. And in fact, in a country like India, in corruption perception index, India is one of the worst ranked countries because of high levels of corruption in our system. And tax evasion is also very common in India. Resources are being exploited. And therefore, the issues that plague the modern governance and economic systems in India, and in fact, if we develop this habit of non-stealing or asteya, it is easy to arrest corruption, tax evasion, resource exploitation, and exploitation of the people as well. And therefore, we could actually build a more sustainable economic system and a welfare-oriented governance as well, where the civil servants, politicians are also responsible to the people. They are also answerable to the people. And he also emphasized on the value of brahmacharya or celibacy, and in fact it is also called as self-restraint. This is also a very important value because it revolves around control of one's own desires, and we should also moderate our behavior. So as of now, there are a lot of crimes which have been revolving around the extramarital affairs. And even before marriages also, there are concepts like live-in relationships. So therefore, in contemporary consumerist culture, we are living in a contemporary consumerist culture. The teachings of Vardhaman Mahavir encourages us of mindful consumption and emotional balance, practicing brahmacharya, celibacy or self-restraint. Again, that will help build a harmonious relation between the communities and among the people as well. And that will also help achieve a sustainable social development. And in fact, he also emphasized on aparigraha as well. Aparigraha involves non-possession or non-attachment to the materialistic things. Now, in a consumerist society, so we are becoming more and more materialist. So we are attached towards the material possessions. For example, a mobile phone, a car, or good buildings, or dress. So these are material possessions and our attachment towards the material possessions. And in fact, this detachment from material possessions is what is called as aparigraha, and that has been emphasized by Vardhaman Mahavir. So this detachment will help reduce the greed and it promotes equality among individuals. So therefore, the minimalist and sustainable living movements, they emphasize on Mahavir's call for a simple living to protect the environment and mental well-being of the individuals. And we should talk about the conclusion of this answer. What you should mention in the conclusion. Now we have to understand one thing, that Mahavir's teachings, they transcend time and religion. They offer solutions for us in modern issues. For example, violence, conflicts, war, environmental degradation, corruption and materialism, and even consumerist culture as well. However, whatever Vardhaman Mahavir teaches us, the values of ahimsa, asteya, aparigraha, so they can build a just, peaceful and sustainable global society, the true essence of spiritual and ethical thinking in any world where we are living. So this is how you could write an impactful and a positive conclusion in the answer. And next important question is, one who is devoted to one's duty, so they attains highest perfection in life. So whomever it is, a civil servant who is attached to his duty of designing and implementing welfare programs, implementing law and order, working as per the rule of law, a politician delivering his duties. So one is devoted to one's duty, they attain highest perfection in their life. You need to analyze this statement with reference to a sense of responsibility and personal fulfillment as a civil servant. Right? So therefore, this question has two different parts and you need to address these two different parts with relevant examples in each of these parts. Now, in fact, in the introduction, you should briefly introduce Bhagavad Gita as well, because Bhagavad Gita emphasizes on the duty of the individual. So Bhagavad Gita says that an individual should not be concerned about the result. Rather, individual's focus should solely be on the duty. Individual should devote himself to the duty that he has been doing, and that will lead to the path to excellence and self-realization on the part of individual. And in the body part of the answer, you just address the core demand of the question, and in conclusion you just emphasize on devotion to duty, how it is beneficial for both social welfare and the personal fulfillment of the individual as well. So this is how you need to write a model framework in this answer. And then introduction, what you should write in the introduction. So as I have already told you that you should quote Bhagavad Gita in the introduction. It says, one who is devoted to one's duty, they attains highest perfection in life. And this is also otherwise called as Karma Yoga, and this Karma Yoga has been mentioned in Bhagavad Gita. So whoever focuses on one's duty, they attains highest perfection in their life. Now in fact, devotion to duty on the part of a civil servant, on the part of a citizen or a politician, and they are not attached to the results. They are just performing their duty with the devotion, and it will lead to the inner peace and fulfillment. Whether you are a success or a failure, that doesn't matter, but you just focus on the effort that you are giving. So this effort is very important, right? So even if you are failed after giving immense effort, so it will result in self-contentment, inner peace and self-fulfillment, that I have worked hard, I've put in a lot of effort, so even if I don't succeed, that doesn't matter, because I know myself that I've put in a lot of effort for this particular exam or any other thing. So in fact, this is a very important for the students who are preparing for the UPSC exam, and for a civil servant and for a politician as well, because this emphasizes on sincere dedication to public service, and that brings both professional excellence and personal satisfaction as well. So therefore it will help harmonizing responsibility with the self-realization as well. Now we need to talk about the main or key demand of the question. Now, the sense of responsibility is considered a core area of the duty. So having a sense of responsibility, for example, a civil servant should have a sense of responsibility, a politician should also have a sense of responsibility towards his or her electorate. Now, in fact, a civil servant's obligation is to serve the public with honesty and integrity. They should also display other important values like impartiality and empathy. So therefore, devotion to this duty, it ensures social trust and even effective governance on the part of the civil servants, right? So sense of responsibility is the core of a duty performed by a civil servant. Now here you could mention the example of E. Sridharan. He is also known as Metro Man of India, because E. Sridharan, so he demonstrated unwavering commitment to public duty. He completed projects like Delhi Metro with efficiency and honesty, and that helped him earn both respect and the inner fulfillment as well, because he also put in a lot of effort to successfully complete a complex and a very difficult metro rail project, Delhi. So therefore, that effort is very, very important on the part of individuals, regardless success or failure. And then the ethical commitment and self or inner fulfillment is also very important. For example, performing one's duty ethically without selfish motives. It cultivates moral strength and even personal peace as well. So an IPS officer, K. Vijay Kumar, so he actually led an operation, a very complex operation against Veerappan. So Veerappan was, he was a smuggler in Karnataka, Tamil Nadu and Kerala forests. So K. Vijay Kumar led a successful operation against Veerappan, and he fulfilled his duty. showing values like courage and integrity. So therefore, he finds satisfaction in serving justice rather than his own personal gain. And that's very important here. And then duty as a path to professional excellence on the part of the civil servants. Because if they are devoted to the duty, if they have performed their duty regardless of the results, it will also lead to the professional excellence on the part of the civil servants. Because once any individual is consistently dedicated to their duty, it enhances the competence, leadership, and institutional credibility as well. For example, civil servants, they devoted to rural development under mission Antyodaya, Swachh Bharat mission. So they also derive fulfillment from tangible societal transformation, and that results in their sustained efforts as well. Right? So this is how you have to mention examples in these answers as well. And then we need to talk about duty performed by the civil servants beyond rewards or recognition. You don't perform your duty merely for your recognition, for your rewards. Rather, you need to perform duty beyond rewards and recognition. So true devotion involves selfless service without expecting praise or promotion. For example, grassroots officers in disaster management, they often work tirelessly under anonymity, but experience a deep satisfaction from saving lives. So therefore, you have to mention this example, which is relevant and impactful as well. Now, in the conclusion of this answer, what you should actually mention? For a civil servant, duty is not just an obligation, but it is a path to perfection on the part of civil servant. Now, when performed a duty with sincerity, ethical conviction, public spirit, it brings both external success and inner contentment. So therefore, realizing the idea of yoga or karmasu kausalam, so that means perfection lies in the excellence of one's duty. So this is how you need to write the conclusion for this answer. And that's all in this session, and thank you so much. Please subscribe our YouTube channel, and if you have any suggestions, you can also mention those suggestions in the comments, and please like our video. Thank you.